Yeah, I'm starting my talk.
Okay.
And I wanted to make a point about why I like Vim, but I wish I learned it 15 years ago when I first started programming, and I didn't learn it. I tried to learn it, I'll just say that. And I spent like a whole day being very unproductive, and eventually I got a job somewhere, and everyone had to use Vim. Everyone had to use the same software. And it seems a little crazy to think about, but what was great about that is when we started pairing with each other, the Sublime users weren't totally mystified and lost when the Vim users were driving, which was an issue with pair programming every time before that. So the rule to them allowing people to, or forcing people, I guess, to use Vim is, the first rule was, we know you're not going to be productive, just take 2 weeks and have fun. And one of the things that they gave us was a game, and it was a lot like Zelda, and you just like move from one end of the screen to the other, and in some cases you have to jump and you have to move one space and whatever, and that shows you like pretty much how to move around in Vim. So one of the reasons I really like Vim is because I'm extremely lazy, and good lazy programmers do a lot less work, I think. So
You've got a weird thing
I
going
know.
on.
I don't know what it is. I can barely see it. It looks the same here for me. I can't see anything. Okay. Apparently it doesn't like full screen. Okay, there we are. So I wrote my presentation in Vim, and I find that as crazy as that sounds, I cannot stand using any other doc. I write a lot in Google Docs for, just regular writing, and I hate it because I have to like move to my mouse. And if you imagine how many hours a day and how many hours a week and how many hours a month and a year and I don't know, however long your career is, how much time you go back and forth to the mouse, it's extremely inefficient. So, but I want to say that Vim, who here actually knows how to use it? Who enjoys using it? No, it's the same people with it. And who's tried it and then freaked out and never went back to it? Cool, perfect. So as you can see on this left side here, I have all the commands. They look really simple, right? It's just a bunch of H's and J's and commas and stuff, and just, it's very, very confusing. And I don't hold it against you for not attempting to try Vim. But there's one really basic thing to keep in mind is there's about three modes to Vim, and as long as you understand that, then it starts to make a lot of sense. So the first mode is what we're in now, and we're in normal mode, so we can move around the screen, and that's pretty much what you're going to be doing in normal mode. The next thing is you'll be in visual mode, and visual mode is you'll be selecting lines. To get out of visual mode, you hit escape. A lot of people redo their caps lock button for escape. I don't, I'm too lazy to do it. So I have this really tiny itty bitty escape button that I have learned very well, very precisely to hit.
Is it the virtual one where it's like a touch bar?
No, but I would hate to have that computer for sure. And then the other one is insert mode. Now when insert mode, you're actually editing the file. You can insert in many different ways. You can insert in the line, you can insert above the line, and you can insert after the cursor where you're in. So as long as you understand those, it starts to make a lot more sense. Command mode is really just hitting like usually colon, and in some cases comma. But let me move over to movement really quick, because this is really what it boils down to. Very intuitive. H is left, J is down, K is up, and L is right. That doesn't make any sense, does it? But trust me, it's like, it makes a lot of sense. The whole point of Vim is to like do very little movement. So H, J, K, and L are all right next to each other. So you're basically almost never moving your hand.
And can you remap it as?
You can, but then you're asking for trouble, right?
Just don't.
Yeah,
You
don't.
use somebody else's Vim.
So the first rule of Vim is if you use your mouse, you're doing it wrong, right? So then I would say the second rule of Vim is if you're using your arrow keys, you're doing it wrong. I mean, arrow keys are for the most part do the same thing. But what's nice is I have two panes right here. These are actually two different files. And just by using like the control key, I can go between the files. In fact, a little fun thing I do when I'm just thinking, I just sit there and do this. It's very nice. Part of that Vim game for movement, one was sorry, I have fat finger syndrome also. Okay, so you can hit W to go through words. You can hit B to go backward through words. You can hit $sign to go to the end of the line. And you can hit 0 to go to the beginning of the line. Now, I want to point out the 0 one because there's so many commands. I only have like the basic ones here. I've only been using Vim for 3 years, and I've put it upon myself to actually learn a little bit more. And for the last 2 years, I've always been like, how do I get to the first part of the line? I don't know. I'll get to it later. So 2 years later, I realized it was the 0 button. So it's 0 key. But there's a lot of really cool stuff. Like, for example, you can mix and match all of these commands. Here's one of my favorite ones. You go into visual mode. You select everything you want. You go into, you have it all selected. Now you're in, if you look down here, sorry. Now I'm in command mode. And I just typed sort, and I've just sorted this line up here. So that was super fast. It was a lot easier than going to, say, go into Sublime, find CSS Comb or something, click a button, and then you've sorted. There is, as you could just see, there's a, if you look over here, there's a undo is U. That's the only one that really makes sense. Can anyone tell me what, well, do I have it up here? Yeah. Anyone's wild guess what undo is?
You just said it's you.
I'm sorry, redo.
I only know it because my hand.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really great point.
Is it Control R?
Yeah, it's Control R. But that was a really good point because I had a really hard time. I had to look up all the commands because I already knew them. And when I'm in other text editors, I actually have a lot of :W's everywhere. :W is to save the file. So, so where do you find Vim? I assume everyone knows. You might find it in the terminal. The nice thing about that is like now I don't have any other. I don't use any software other than the terminal now. So I run all my programs in the terminal. If you want to get really crazy, you can get into like Tmux or some kind of screen command. But in this case, I'm in this directory, and all I have to do is hit Vim, and I'm now in here. Some people use MVim. That's cool. If you want to use another program, I'm not going to hold it against you. It's very similar to Vim. It's not really anything different. And the only huge difference, which I'm finding recently to be, you use the clipboard and you don't really think about it. When you start using Vim in the terminal, you realize the clipboard's a completely different thing. To get back into that though, we have, let's see, yeah, here we go.
Hey Matt,
Yeah.
you only got like a minute.
Okay, that's fine. So the other things that you really want to care about are yank. So yank is copy a line. Delete, that will delete a line. You can put a new line in. I didn't even show you the great parts. So you could like select a whole line, delete it, move it down here, get it where you need it to go. Fat fingers again. I guess I can show you more, but really it's all about moving around a file, knowing when you're in the file. Most of the time you're in visual mode because you're pulling things out, putting them in, or sorting it. And then when you're in insert mode, you're typing. And you're really hardly ever moving your hands. So,
Search.
search?
Yes.
Yes, search. Well, there's Fuzzy Finder, which is a plugin. The other thing I wanted to mention really quick is if you're really afraid to use Vim but you're interested, one is you can get it as a plugin for a bunch of different editors like VS Code. There's one called Yatter, if you're interested in, you could give that to Mercedes. And Yatter is like everything you need to set up Vim, because most of the time has very little in it, and you have to set it up yourself, which is also a huge learning curve to it. But if you like to use IDEs, you can really get into it and configure it to be like an IDE. It could really just be like any text editor you've ever used. It just takes a little courage and acceptance that you'll have 2 weeks of being totally useless at your job.
No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. 2 weeks maybe a little too high.